So let's take a picture of this. So it shows the connections, I guess. Barley's. Huh. The tower's right next to the tree. We got the town, the battery. Oh, okay. So that's what we were playing with in like episode 2. Or 3, the battery. CWs, the shop. Entry canyon. Water source, the falls, the plateau. The Bosque. Supplies. Okay. So it's not like a junkyard, it's a supply yard. Oh, it is. Scrapyard. Supplies, fuel. Rail yard. The Bleeder Lake. I want to get to the Bleeder, I think. And the tree at some point. So, where's this? This is by the water source. Okay. So we might be able to go up through the elevator and go behind where the water source is to get to the Bleeder, whatever that is. The cemetery. $15. Oh, this must be a pattern. I'm gonna guess this is a pattern for the communication or the control thing. Lots to read. Oh man, that's hard to read. I shall document the curious events that have conspired with myself, my family, friends, and co-workers. Hartnell was a peaceful mining town. That's the name of the town that was probably transported here. Founded by my grandfather and nestled within the red rock of the desert in the Arizona territory. Its 163 inhabitants heard 2 mighty explosions on the night of June 27th, 1903. I sent several workers through the town to verify that the explosion had not caused any injuries or damage to mining equipment. They returned and reported that it must have been a loud clap of thunder caused by dry lightning, for they found no damage. It was not until the light of the next morning that we were amazed to realize something profound had indeed occurred. At some point during that night, our entire mining facility and a large circle of the land around it seemed to have been scooped up and carried off to a completely different place, all without anyone knowing about it. Wow, that's crazy. The entire landscape outside of our circle of desert could only be described as alien. Large floating rocks could be seen in the distance. No one had ever seen anything like it anywhere on Earth. We fully explored our new surroundings, hoping to find a way home. No way home was ever found. In fact, we soon discovered what we take for granted now. Not only could we not get back home, we also could not access the landscape outside the desert. Curiously, we discovered that a flow of water was provided from a high point of rock, and we discovered a small tree growing in the very center of the circle. Our central tree, that is so important to our lives here, was just a mere sapling back then. Now, looking at a timeline, Cecil came in 1870, so that's before this. And there's Tamavera. Thought I heard something. Been here for 62 years, so. And we've seen 1998, right? Or sorry, 1988 was it? That advertisement. So lots of Lots of years to consider. But it appears as though the mining facility is was the first thing to come, aside from Cecil, maybe? Species description, Mofang. Through ambassador seeds, the Mofang were the first non-human species humans were introduced to. An Liang was the first to call the alien a Mofang, impressed with their advanced ability to imitate our sounds, movements, and mannerisms. Although they have a name for themselves, their language is mostly unpronounceable by humans. As a result, and because of their mimicry abilities, communication with the Mofang is primarily accomplished by learning human language. By their learning human languages, rather than humans learning to speak Mofang. They've been able to learn almost every human language represented in Hunrath, enough to provide functional, if rudimentary, communication. The Mofang, a basic external morphology, is remarkably humanoid. Bilateral, symmetrical tetrapods, bipedal head with anterior-facing features. So, definitely that insect is not the Mofang. Do we flip this over? There. Eyes, nostrils, other external features include minimal body hair and raised dorsal protrusions. Constitution is somewhat frail, due apparently to their thin and lightweight internal structure, but internal investigation has not been possible. They have ample cranial space to account for a substantial brain, and their intelligence is impressive as evidenced by their advanced technology. Can we get a picture? There we are. Oh, man. That's nuts. Arai. After a certain level of maturity and health of the tree, a passage opened at its base. This passage allowed contact with two additional species. The first contact was with the Arai. Or Arai. Just checking my notes here. I don't see that name listed, so I don't think we've seen that before. The first contact revealed the Arai to be large beetle-like insects. Okay, that's what we've been seeing. We were unable to communicate directly with them in any way, but they appeared to have some rudimentary level of intelligence. It was Lorink Toth. First time we've heard that. There's so many characters in this game. Who first made the journey through the heart to Kaptar, and named both the New World and the inhabitants. The Arai have three distinct variants that have come to be referred to as barnacle, beetle, and polyarch. Although their morphology is dramatically different from human, their internal system, like all of our neighbors, are supported by similar atmospheric composition and basic nutrients. In their barnacle stage, the Arai are completely immobile. The Arai stay in this egg-like development state, seemingly indefinitely. In order to hatch, they must be in proximity of a polyarch, and fertilized by the beetles after a certain stage of maturity. The beetles are the eyes and ears, hands and feet, with only a minimal nervous system of their own. They are essentially the sensory extensions of the immobile polyarchs. Whoa, okay. They are able to execute simple commands, but apparently have very little in the way of individual sentience. So these beetles that we've been seeing are probably reporting back to the polyarchs. Fertilized by beetles, okay. So the beetles are the ones that do the fertilization of the barnacles, and the polyarchs just sit there. But they have to be... The barnacles have to be in proximity of the polyarchs. Okay, they are able to execute simple commands, apparently have very little in the way of individual sentience. That's what they look like. Okay. Excuse me. The Arai polyarchs are the intelligence and consciousness of the species. Although it was obvious that there was intelligence behind the species, it wasn't until Caroline Farley began spending large amounts of time in close proximity that deeper communication began. With a room nearby, Farley was the first to communicate non-verbally and learn much about the species, including some historical information. The Arai species survived in their world, while several other sentient species came and went. Among them, an ancient species who formed a deeper relationship with the Arai, carving temples and dwellings for them in the rocks, and later a more recent species that took over much of their homeworld. The latter species was especially adept at mechanical construction, that must be the Mofang, using it mostly to capture and process large flying creatures using the beetles as bait. They don't sound very friendly. Nice. Those are the Polarics. The Villain. The final species to be discovered were the Villain. The Villain had been communicating with the Arai for many years through ambassador seeds, but became part of the larger community very shortly after the Arai. The large and imposing frame and a form of communication based on a complex multi-voice low-frequency rumble. The initial introductions were intimidating. After several attempts, Emily Vidal was able to begin some rudimentary communication and began visiting the Villain in Marai, which she named on a regular basis. She discovered a complex and amazing society that was able to use their technology in unexpected ways. They had the ability to quickly transform their world using extruded structures based on some form of complex miniature substrate material. Wow. Unlike the other worlds, the Villain sphere is scooped out of a Villain resettlement group. What? The Villain sphere is scooped out of a Villain resettlement group that was preparing to set off into space to find a new homeworld. This was their way of life, to put themselves into stasis and scatter themselves through the stars. As mentioned previously, their appearance is imposing, standing about 9 feet tall, with a distinct reptilian resemblance. They have 6 limbs, 2 muscular legs and arms, and a smaller set of arms. They control every aspect of their technology with their vocalizations, but over the years they have created control panels based on their number system that allow other species to access elements of their technology. That's what we saw before, I think. Oh, damn. That's creepy. But a lot of reading. Communication. Talking with our neighbors. We take communication for granted, even with the varied languages we find here in Hunrath. But when we suddenly find ourselves among other intelligent species who don't share our culture, history, DNA, or vocal cords, it requires a huge amount of effort for the beginning of rudimentary chatting. This quick overview will set the stage for what to expect when communicating with our neighbors. The Mofang were the first non-humans we met. With at least some level of similar physical vocal generating abilities, they picked up human words very quickly. This early mimicry resulted in what the species became to be called. Even though they were able to mimic single words and simple phrases, it became evident over the years that huge grammatical differences were not easily overcome. Some have proposed that the difficulty may have arisen because the Mofang insisted on attempting to learn every human language, and as a result, were never able to lock onto any consistent grammatical structure. Nevertheless, in spite of the rudimentary sentence construction, it has been very easy to communicate, and it has been unnecessary for us to learn their language beyond a few simple phrases and proper names. If you'd like to learn more about communication with the Mofang, please contact Tam. Wow, you guys keeping track of all those names? I'm also looking at the list of like the dead people, and I don't see any of these names we've come across in that list of the graves, that is. Nuts. Villain have presented a particular communication challenge. From what we can gather, they produce sounds using 2 large reed-like structures inside opposite sides of their heads. The vibrations generated are channeled to resonance chambers in their skulls, where they are combined into a complex low-frequency dual tone. The low-frequency bitonal sounds are not only hard for humans to hear and resolve, but impossible for us to mimic. And the Villain's hearing is also oriented toward low frequency, so they are unable to hear most of sounds associated with human speech. Therefore, communication with the Villain has relied on technology. They have adapted consoles, which the Villain fluently control with vocalization. for use by other species. Over the years, some individuals of other species, including a few humans, have learned to communicate very efficiently using this method. Humans have been able to pick out some higher frequency characteristics of certain key Villain words over the years. And although we can't speak to them in a way that the Villains can understand, we are occasionally able to hear and recognize these words when spoken distinctly by the Villain. If you'd like to learn more, please contact Vito. So it seems like there's different experts on the different races. And I'm glad to hear this because I was starting to get confused about the Villain and the Mofang. So I'm glad to hear that there's different species. The Arai, or Arai. None of the stages of the Arai morphology have any vocalization apparatus. Because of the obvious synchronization of the barnacle flash and the ability of the pawns to provide for and address the needs of the polyarchs, it was assumed that the species could communicate effectively. It was not until Farley began to spend large amounts of time in the polyarch antechamber that the first clues to this communication became evident. After months of research, Farley began to have limited success with receiving some kind of simple messages that were coming from the polyarchs. It is apparent now that the polyarchs had been attempting to communicate the entire time, but they themselves had been experimenting with various channels till they finally got a response from Farley. After this breakthrough, others were able to tune in to the polyarchs and learn to listen. But the polyarchs and the pawns have a simple organ that can sense human vocal frequency, enabling them to sense simple responses from humans. But over the years, Farley was able to learn to speak to the polyarchs via a related form of extrasensory transmission. Wow. Please contact her. So she was the specialist on the Arai nets. It's interesting that this is in Farley's vault or her house, but these don't appear to be written by Farley at all. Wait. Seed information. So I was right. The thing that we saw at the beginning of the game was a seed. Wow, lots of reading. Ambassador seeds were first documented about 150 Earth years ago. They occur about once every 400 days. Okay, so a bit more than a year. If the trees remain healthy, natural seed swaps occur between pairs of seeds that we now know dropped simultaneously from healthy trees in paired sphere. So there's another sphere paired with ours that also has a tree. When each seed was touched by species in sphere, the swap occurred, sending an ambassador from each sphere to the paired sphere. So we got swapped with someone then? Weird. Location of the swap is defined by the location of the pairs of seeds. After the first swap, the seed recharged quickly, allowing for a quick return. First meetings were intense but naturally short. It was quite a surprise for both the Mofang and us. Over time, the seeds required more time to recharge, producing longer visits between species. Collector seeds. Everyone who arrives is familiar with the collector seeds. Okay, so that's different. This is just like a swap, and then people can stay and then go back. We probably got abducted by a collector seed. The bright light that we were all drawn to right before the event that brought us here is a collector seed. What new arrivers may not be aware of is that these seeds, like all seeds, come in pairs. When the tree drops a collector seed on the ground, it signals that its twin has begun. It's a quest for a new being. That search may take hours or it may take years. When an appropriate situation, a natural threat of death, is found, the seed activates and swaps a smaller but varying size sphere from Earth. Whoa, okay. So some great event happened, probably the battle, I'm assuming. Or whatever appropriate homeworld here to Hunrath. As Hunrath became more populated, we would watch for a newly dropped collector seed, collect it, place it in the entry canyon area. So someone must have done that. This allowed us to provide a more predictable entry experience for new arrivers, and provide a single area to collect any resources that may have come along with the new arriver. Unlike ambassador seeds and mother seeds, question mark, collector seeds do not seem to survive. The inner core is spent, leaving only the lifeless outer husk. Mother seeds, postulated but unverified. First suggested by Alima Hamza, 2232BH. Like people assigned a number? Odd. The notion of mother seed extrapolates the behavior of the lesser seeds to a superseed. She posited that the process that actually created the paired spheres was similar to all other swaps, but on a much grander scale. The idea is that two seeds from a mother tree were scattered on the galactic winds to find appropriately similar environments. When matches were found, some process was triggered that swapped large portions of landscape between vastly different worlds. Alima further noted that the trees' locations in the center of the spheres suggested that the trees grew from these mother seeds. Because of the similarities, it has been conjectured that reswapping the entire environmental spheres might be possible with a larger scale version of the ambassador seed machine. Okay, so we might be able to swap this back to Earth. Does that mean that there's a section of Earth that looks like this alien landscape around us? Is that it? Guess that's it. Let me just make sure. Man, lots to absorb there, guys. Let's keep looking, see if we can find anything else. Another notebook. Welcome to Hunrat. Please give us a bit of information about you so we can get to know you a little better. Name, where you came from, 4-digit year, where you came from, country and city. Oh, that's what that means. That's what that number is. It's must be the year and then where they came from. Circumstance under which you were taken. Please note any danger you noticed. Emptied and filed 12,000 AH, 13,000 AH. Oh, wow. Is this going to be everyone? Samuel Carson, January 2017. Manakara, Madagascar. I just arrived and was driving my supply truck along the coast south of Manakara when I recall being washed away and the seed appeared. 15257 AH, Mel 61. Vasil Regenbogen, 1942, March, Lubeck, Germany. Last thing I recall is a large rumbling while I was hiding in the cellar of a vacant building. I ran toward a bright light in a stairwell. I still don't understand this number. Maria Gallego, 1988. Cozumel, Mexico. On my boat in bad storm. 16,023 AH. Female 46. Is that like Hunrathian year? And then Fang Qiu, March of 2042. Portland, United States of America. Skiing. Mount Hood. Male 37. 2042 is the latest year. I don't hear anything. I have to rewind it to the beginning. No. Rewind.
Well, I feel like I should say something. Shavar. So, well, should we assume that Shavar, well, the attack is inevitable. We just don't know when. So, Shavar and her family, and others she trusts, I guess, well, they'll arrive when they can, without giving, like covertly. So the plan will happen, in spite of our, we're locking down as much as possible here, and moving everybody out. CW will stay here, and I'll go to Arai at the last possible moment. Most are gone. There's just a few left here now. The mayor got out early. I don't even know why I'm recording this. It's like somehow we'll live on or something. I guess this has meaning if someone listens, but who? A new one? A new arriver. Oh, God, the kiosk out front. I need to update that message.
And that's it. So she went to Murray. Sounds like Joseph was a bit cowardly and got out as quickly as possible. Question is, where did they go? Oh, there's another side.
We all lost everything. Everything but our stories. And they shouldn't be forgotten. I was 3. It was April of 1983.
Okay, this is the beginning message.
70 for you, Sam, and Vera. You tell it like it was yesterday, but it's been 62 years since you saw that blast of light. And that's where all of our news stories began, that light. It streaked across the sky, mesmerizing, but unnerving. Some of you were alone. I wasn't. My dear grandma, God bless her, rejoiced as if it was some forebearer of good fortune. Vera, you said you recall smiling. None of us understood. But, well, we followed. Whether it was in the deep woods like Cecil or right outside town like Jane and Jenny, we were drawn to see more. Grandma lifted me from the carriage on the porch and walked into the yard so we could watch it unobstructed. Even in daylight, Joseph, you said, was gloriously bright. But in the twilight, it was spellbinding. And we all felt some kind of trepidation, and yet attraction as we approached it, and it approached us. So close, so radiant, and that sound, deep and vibrant, organic. You all remember, there was no turning away. It advanced, almost like purposefully, each of us. We should tell these stories because it saved us, and there must be more.
It was in the middle of the afternoon.
I was watching the sunrise.
It was about 2:30 in the morning. December 26, 1948.
May 7th, 2009. September 3rd, 1995.
I was down by the river.
I was hiking in the desert, in the park with my grandson.
I looked up and saw a
Brilliant flash of light that exploded in the sky. The light, it flew into the clouds and behind some trees and
it disappeared. I looked around and, to see.
See if there was anyone around. See if anyone else had seen what I had seen.
There was no one around.
They all saw it too. Bob definitely saw it. Well, it was just beautiful. There was something calming about it.
Yeah, I don't mind telling you, I was kind of freaking out. I tried to follow it, trying to get a better look at it.
Wanted to see it again.
I came to a place where it had disappeared.
I looked, but I found nothing. And it streaked through the sky again. It seemed like it was looking for something. Or looking for someone.
And then it found me.
And it found me. Found me.
Found me.
Found me.
Found me. Found me.
And it found me.
Creepy. So much to absorb, guys. I guess that's the end of the recording. Wallabear. Kids drawings. So wow. So there must have been something wrong with us. Maybe we were dying and the light came to save us. One, seed pair. Two, Earth. Find planets with similar atmospheres. 3, swap. There's a picture of the seed. 4, tree from seed. Soria, Mofang. That's where where Farley said she was going, right? Soria? Heart, superposition. Heart connected path open when mature. 4 species meet. What happens at fruition? Swap where? Home? When? Maybe dead? More seed pairs scattered throughout the universe. Why scattering? Hearts underneath. And that's how you get to Soria. My brother, small and nice, sings constantly, as noisy as a rock concert. If only he would be quiet. Nice. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap up this episode here. Lots to go over, and I'm gonna have to do that, and I'll prepare a recap for next time. But there's so much information to go over. Oh, I didn't check this out. Hold on. Oh, hello. Supposed to go here. Or it's supposed to go here. That makes more sense. What is there? Guess we'll find out in the next episode, guys. This is Luckless Lovelocks signing off for now, and I love you all.